Hey guys, this is Megan with Left in Knots, and today I'm going to show you how to get started crocheting my Ocean Waves cover-up, which was one of the latest free patterns on my blog, leftinknots.com. The Ocean Waves cover-up is sized to fit toddlers, but I will give you some tips for adjusting the size. It's made with this worsted weight category 4 cotton tape yarn from Ice Yarns. You could also substitute another worsted weight cotton. If you do, I do recommend making a gauge swatch just to make sure that it works up the same for you. The nice thing about the Ocean Waves cover-up is that it's a beach cover-up. The size is really flexible. It's not a fitted garment, so you do have some wiggle room there. So for this pattern, you'll need 2 skeins of this cotton tape yarn or a comparable amount of your other worsted weight cotton. This is 100 grams or 230 meters. And I used exactly 2 skeins of this. And then you'll also need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Today, just for example purposes, I'm going to be using a bulkier yarn so that you can see my stitches a little bit more easily, and a larger crochet hook. To start this pattern, you're going to want to chain an even number of stitches because row 1 is going to have an odd number of half double crochet stitches across. So here I've chained 22, and I'm going to half double crochet in my second chain from the stitch. If your personal style is chaining 2 before a half double crochet stitch, that's fine. Just adjust it accordingly for yourself throughout the pattern. The way I wrote the pattern, it's a chain 1 before a half double crochet stitch. So this first row, you're just going to go straight across with half double crochet stitches. This pattern can be adjusted in length and width very easily. Adding or subtracting 4 rows will add or subtract 2 inches of length, and adding or subtracting 7 stitches will add or subtract approximately 2 inches of width. And so I've sized this to fit my daughter, as you saw in the picture. She's in about 2 to 3T clothing right now, and she has some room. It definitely fits her, but she has some room to grow into this piece. And I think it would probably fit pretty well up to about a 5 or 5T. But if you would like to adjust the pattern even to get up to an adult size, it would be very, very easy to do. You'd obviously just need a bit of extra yarn. Okay, so I'm getting to the end of my first row here. So now you have half double crocheted across your entire row. Like I said, this is just a sample swatch, so I'm not doing the full 61 stitches that I have written in the pattern. This is 21. But again, you'll always want an odd number in this row. Row 2 is going to be another row of half double crochet stitches across. So I'll go ahead and do that and then come back and show you the more open mesh stitches that we do throughout the rest of the piece. Okay, so now I've finished my second row of half double crochet stitches. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And now row 3 is where we start this offset mesh. So I'm going to half double crochet 3 stitches in. The reason I start with a few half double crochets is that it makes a really nice border with, at least working with this tape yarn, it made a really nice border so that I didn't actually have to crochet around the piece at the end of the project. So if you get to the end of the project and you really want to crochet around the outside edge, that's fine, but I didn't think that I had to. It looked pretty nice without it. So now I'm going to start that offset mesh with a chain 1, skip 1, half double crochet in your next stitch, chain one, skip one, half double crochet, and you continue that across. You want to try to keep the tension on your chain stitches even so that your piece doesn't start to curl up like that or down like that. Okay, and then this is going to be my last chain one, skip one, and then I'm going to, just like we started with 3 half double crochets on this side, I'm going to end with 3 half double crochets on this side of the piece. Okay, now going into row 4, you're going to chain one. This time you're only going to start with 2 half double crochets. Now you've got your 2 half double crochets, you're going to chain one, skip one, and work into this chain space here with your half double crochet. And you're going to do that all the way across. I usually like to mention this at the beginning of my videos, and you've probably figured it out by now, but I'm left-handed. If you are a right-handed person who is having trouble watching this, you can certainly hold it in front of a mirror. If that helps you get it a little bit better. Okay, so now I've half double crocheted into this last chain 2 space of the previous row, or chain 1 space of the previous row. Now I'm going to chain 1 and skip 1 and then half double crochet in these last 2 stitches. And that's it for the mesh, the offset mesh. Now I'm going to do a few more rows of this and then I'll show you how to make the neck hole. Okay, so I crocheted a few more rows of that offset mesh just to give you a visual to see what it would look like. You can see that I always work the half double crochet stitch of the row that I'm working into the chain space of the previous row. And really, once you get going, it's just a repeat of these 2 rows back and forth. So this row will start with 3 on one side, this row will start with 2, 3, 2. Then when you get to the shoulder section in the written pattern that is starting at row 36, you're going to start solid half double crochet across again. And I designed it that way so that the solid stitching would fall at the shoulders for a little bit of extra sun protection. I'm a former lifeguard, so gotta reinforce the sun protection. So now when you get to the point of making your neck hole, if you're following my written pattern, just follow the written pattern. The stitch count is on, it'll get you a nice centered neck hole. If you have altered the stitch count, what I will say is just make sure that wherever your neck hole falls, it's in the center of the piece. So with 21 stitches across, just for sample purposes, I'm going to do 8 stitches on one side, make the neck hole 5 stitches wide, and then do 8 more stitches. And that will just make sure that the neck hole is right in the center. The piece will sit on the shoulders evenly. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So then to make the neck hole, all you do is chain 5, or well, that's for my sample. Chain the number that you are following either in the pattern or the number that you've figured out will center your neck hole for you. And then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip those 5 and start your half double crochet back up in that stitch there. So there we've got 8, 5, and 8. And this will stretch. It may look small when you do it with the regular size piece, but this will stretch and fit around. My daughter has a really big head and it fits around her head very easily. So that will fit around a toddler's head. And then that was basically the center row of your piece. And now you're just going to repeat everything on the back half. So I'm going to chain 1, half double crochet across. When I get to that chain 5, you have 2 options. You can either work into each chain stitch individually, if that's what you like to do. I like to just work into the chain space around those chain stitches. Just make sure you work the same number of stitches as you chained. So I'm going to work 5 stitches into this chain space. 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes when you don't work into the exact chain stitches, you have to spread those stitches out along that chain. And then you just continue across until you reach the end. So you can see in my sample here I had 2 solid rows of half double crochet. This center row here is where my neck hole is, and then I would do, to make it even, I would do 2 more rows of half double crochet. In the pattern, it's more than that. Again, reference the written pattern if you're making this from my stitch count. If you're altering it, again, just make sure that there are the same number of rows of half double crochet on this side of the neck as there are on this side of the neck. As you continue down the piece, then you're going to move into that offset mesh again, and with 2 rows of half double crochet, and that's the whole piece. It will fold over in half like this. Sorry, my sample is not to scale, but it will fold over in half like this. That's your neck hole, and then this part will go down the torso. And then to finish mine off, I just took some lengths of yarn. I did 15 lengths of yarn and divided them into 3 sections of 5, and then I braided a little tie belt to put around the waist. When you do that, I recommend, because depending on the age of the child, this belt could definitely be a strangulation hazard or a choking hazard, so always stitch it to the piece. And then if you do have any concerns, if this is for a young child, just leave the tie belt off. You could add some sewn on buttons or something a little bit safer. But for the older children, this tie belt that cinches around the waist is really cute. So that's the rundown of how to make the Ocean Waves cover up. Again, for this project, I used the Ice Yarns cotton tape. They have a couple different colorways available on their website. For the full pattern for this cover up, you can visit my blog, leftandknots.com. And I've got a lot of other free crochet patterns and some video tutorials there. Thank you.